Hi, Hayes. Thanks so much for joining us today with Venturous. Super excited to hear more about your journey. And would you mind starting off with a bit of an introduction about yourself?
Sure, Caroline. Thank you for having me today. So, Hayes Green, I'm an operator. I've worked in healthcare service companies and digital health companies for the last 25 years. I really enjoy operations. I'm an action-oriented conductor, meaning I like to connect the dots so the trains run on time. And it jazzes me, makes me want to get up every day and go out and help companies, whether I'm in a fractional or full-time role, solve their problems. Again, thanks for having me today.
Yeah. Well, to start off, you've driven massive improvements in operations. What's the first lever you pull when looking to scale efficiently in the healthcare business?
Great question. I think it goes down to process and looking at the different process of the group or organization or business unit that I'm stepping in to help. And what I mean by process is process maps, process data flow diagrams, again, everything, whether it be on in Word or a pretty Visio picture or even helping build those processes. It really goes back to the process and how people, process, and technology and that nexus comes together to run the business. And so I need to have a solid understanding of the process when we think about standardization and optimization, and both of those tactics then can lead to efficiency and increased productivity for that group at an operational level. So it's really, again, going back to the process and understanding what it is at the core.
Thinking about your processes, what's one operational transformation that you're most proud of and why?
Sure. I go back to a period of time, about 4 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago. I had the opportunity to join a previous colleague from another role here in Nashville at my Nexus. And I led a business unit at my Nexus for 3 years and took over that business unit and led it into the integration into Anthem when we were purchased by Carillon. But in that transformation, it was really, again, it's back to the people, process, and technology. So I focused on the people first, helping take the existing team and building it out, while always thinking about next level leadership. Very important to me. So took the directors who reported to me and really helped them with their people management styles and really again, focused on how we could develop them as professionals. And then also other team members. So someone who might start off in a call center rep perspective, they showed a lot of initiative. They wanted to grow and learn more about the business, move them into another role a little bit higher. So not necessarily a lateral move, but a promotion inside the organization. And all of that to be said is really important because when you do that in that transformation, you retain all of that knowledge that those individuals and our teammates have about the business and all their fluency. You don't have to go to market. You don't have to spend time and ultimately cost trying to train somebody. So that's really that transformation was great with people and the technology itself. We took a great system that had been built and we added automation and enhanced the automation using technology at the time, both in our stack and outside of our stack, working with great partners there to make our process and our technology more efficient and more automated. And by doing that, when we made hires, we made specific hires back to the people component of people, process, and technology. And so those people hires that we had were critical, whether they be a clinical or administrative function. But again, while working and harnessing the power of our technology. And then I've already talked about process. And again, that was a great process transformation and standardization.
As a fractional executive, how do you build trust and alignment quickly with internal teams and leadership?
No, that's a really good question. I think first and foremost is to define a scope, a very narrow scope, not extremely narrow, but narrow up front for that fractional leader. So they're coming in because again, the fractional leader, not a full-time teammate or colleague in this organization. You're coming in and need discipline, focus, and organization really to tackle one project or two projects that you're coming in to help that organization with. And then in building that collaborative relationship, again, by having that scope that everyone can agree to. So again, the executive sponsor behind you coming into the organization agrees to that scope. And then you build off of that scope by going and meeting people where they are. And that's part of my leadership style, but you make the effort up front to physically and then also virtually and in the world we live in today, but meet them where they are, make the effort, learn about what's bothering them, learn about their hindrances, and again, what are the challenges in their day-to-day operations, and then build that into your scope as you refine it. And the last part there, really about building that trust and alignment quickly is be flexible, be available to the teammates there. You're a fractional resource, so be on their time.
Getting a bit more granular in terms of like meeting people where they are, teams. What are some tools or tactics you do to do that off the bat?
I mean, so the tools and tactics is really listening. And
Yeah.
so it's part of my management style. And I affectionately refer to it as managed by walking around. So again, back when we were in the days of in offices and such, go to the where the person sits, if they're in a cube, if, et cetera, and meet with them in their space. Show them that you are willing to extend the effort and go and listen to what they have to say. And that's critical in that listening skills. Again, provide them air cover, give them an audience, give a megaphone to all their problems, or again, they might have some great things to share, and again, they don't have the confidence or they don't feel comfortable speaking up. So help them again, help them position themselves as a point of strength to be able to share all that, whether it be positives or negatives, with the organization.
Again, a bit off script, but what was your journey into fractional leadership?
My journey into fractional leadership started, probably in 2016, 2017, I had the opportunity after exiting a company to do consulting work, and I really enjoyed being able to step in and help different organizations serve in whatever capacity they needed me to. But again, it was a project-based, that fractional idea of being able to come in and solve one or two problems that launched me into that track. And I think that fractional and the idea of this idea of fractional leadership and fractional opportunities has really caught on in the last 3 or 4 years, and you're seeing more and more people doing it. But it's a great way for people who are not ready to exit, again, their careers or industries, be able to contribute, and particularly to newer companies and to companies who don't have the capital right now, operating capital, to hire a chief operating officer or chief information officer or others, or chief growth officer.
At Venturous, I mean, we have a lot of fractionals. We do opportunities for a fractional, full-time advisory board. But fractional's new to a lot of companies, especially startups and early stage, even well-established companies. So what would you say is the biggest misconception about hiring a fractional COO?
It's a great question. And I think it relates back to some of what we spoke about in two questions ago. That misconception is the fractional COO is the COO. They
Mm,
are the COO for the organization. They are there to act, even though that they're a fractional. People misconstrue that fractional just means, well, they're part-time. But if, again, a fractional COO or a fractional leader, in that case, they are there to serve the company. But again, that's my misconception, I think, is the most time, because in a fractional capacity, whatever that may be, it may be 10 hours a week, 5 hours a week, whatever it may be, again, that fractional leader cannot solve every challenge that's going on operational in the day-to-day executions. And so again, it really goes back to what I was talking about, is really define that scope and find your champions, and refine the scope, expand the scope if you need to over time, and that can increase your fractional time with the company.
that leads perfectly into my next question, which is how will a company know whether they need a fractional executive versus full-time leadership, or when they're ready for that?
Right, when they're ready for it. I think it really, Caroline, I think it really hinges on the growth stage of the company. I think if you have a startup or a relatively new venture-backed company, for example, or again, just or even again, a bootstrapped company with a founder coming along, I think that growth stage. So they might have sold one client, they might have one implementation, they're in a go-to-market stage where they need somebody to really be able to come in and organize materials and really work across different fractional roles. So think about sales, growth, business development, implementation, operations, and then going on client success. So I think that the size of the company And then once they're maturing in their process and they have a second client or a third client or multiple implementations going, and then they have to also, again, keep the lights on, so to speak, for those existing customers who are already implemented in the day-to-day, then that really supports the company being able to make the decision to say, we need full-time leadership here at some level to help the company continue to grow, number one, but also deliver.
Have you ever been in any situations where you've helped a company transition from fractional to full-time and aiding that process if
I
needed?
did. Last summer, I had the great opportunity to help an organization out, and I served as a chief growth officer for a period of 3 months. And so this was after a purchase by a private equity firm. It was a founder-led business, first time with institutional capital. And so, having known the private equity firm who came in, I came in and helped that group again just make a 90-day bridge until they were going to find a full-time chief growth officer, but helped come in and look at marketing materials, again, put a new spin on some of the marketing materials, helped them close several large health plan deals and some other risk-bearing entities that they had out there. But really enjoyed that period of time and organized all the information so when the next full-time chief growth officer came in, he or she could find everything they needed to continue on the path.
Awesome. This segues again great into my next question, where I was going to ask you about how you've built teams during periods of turnaround. So that was a period of turnaround for that company and during high growth phases. What's your go-to move to get people aligned?
Again, I think it really goes back to my management style that we've talked about meeting people where they are, managed again by walking around, as I really like to speak. And as I've touched on, excuse me, before, again, in those high growth modes, really understand what people are grappling with. I have often found that learning the systems, the core system or systems of the company, and operating for a week or 2 weeks, and all the members of the team, all the way down, whether it be a call center staff or people using the system to process daily transactions, go learn those roles, learn how the system works, and again, have all of that information from the bottom up really gives me the fluency that I need that I can talk to anybody in the company about what's going on and digging in, really. So managed by walking around and then digging in with them to learn that process, which you've heard me harp on, which is so critical. But that's also how you build trust, and people also build respect as you're willing to roll up your sleeves, learn what they're doing on a daily basis. And so when you hear pain points, barriers, and other points of distraction and problems, you know where they are. And really that allows you to win hearts and minds, which is what you have to do in a fractional capacity or as a new full-time leader stepping into a group that's been together for a while.
What would you say is one piece of conventional wisdom in healthcare operations that you think is totally outdated?
Sure, I actually have two. So,
Go
uh,
for
so,
it.
so, so bear with me here. The first one is something that you and I've heard for a long time, and many people just, again, they use this anachronism all the time, but the numbers do not lie. And I learned very early on in my career with two situations: Health South down in Birmingham, a lot of friends who work there, and then also the Enron situation down in Houston, that numbers can be manipulated. Sophisticated people who want to present and project numbers to paint a story to the street or whoever it may be from an investor perspective, that the numbers don't always tell the truth. And so I think that that's can completely outdated. And my thought there is if you see numbers in the operation, be skeptical, be curious, ask questions, investigate the numbers. And if you're starting to receive a lot of pushback, then that might give you, again, the impetus to go another layer and see what's going on there. The second misnomer is do not stop learning. We're lifelong learners. You have the ability at any phase of your career. Think about all the digital media and other information that we can consume via our phone, wherever we are all the time. But there's so many different ways to consume knowledge on any subject out there to come up to speed quickly. I mean, we can use, again, thinking about open AI and chat GPT for the right reasons to be able to use it to come up to speed. But really, and again, as we advance in our careers, really hone your crystallized intelligence. Again, that's all the wisdom and experience that you've amassed over time and bring it to bear. So those are two pieces of the conventional wisdom that are outdated to me. Great question. Thank you.
I agree with them and I love them. And I think they're not even specific to healthcare, which is even better. I think they can apply to pretty much anything.
Agreed. Very much so.
What's a surprising skill or habit that's helped you succeed, but has nothing to do with healthcare?
Oh, another great question. So two skills that quickly come to mind. The first is organization. My wife calls me her organizational consultant, which I truly appreciate. It's a compliment. But I look at organization in my life, again, particularly in my professional life, is how I organize Outlook, how I organize a file structure on a new PC, organize slides in a slide deck, whether it be a pitch deck, whether it be a board update, etc. But again, I think organizational skills are key, particularly when you have a lot of information or you have two fractional leadership opportunities or other projects that you're working on that you can quickly go to find that information, use a quick keyword search and find that file, whatever it may be, or those slides that you need to harness and use across another project. So that's organization. The second skill that I think is just paramount is preparation. I think about preparing for our chat here. I think about a new fractional COO opportunity or even interviewing for a new role. Research the company, research the questions, and really come up with market niche challenges that you can think to ask about and other thought-provoking questions that you can have a conversation with someone in an interview and really shape that to be a conversation versus just a rapid Q&A session where so much is lost. Again, in a conversation, you can learn so much more about a person and are they truly a quality fit for the organization versus just having subject matter expertise.
Both great things that I completely agree with. I mean, organization helps me so much in life. All right, another fun one. If operations had a mascot, what would yours be and why?
Oh, okay. Again, you've caught me on a day where I'm feeling generous, so I have two mascots for you.
Okay, great.
But anyway, the first one that comes to mind is the great commercial of the Energizer Bunny. It keeps going and going and going. Yeah, I say that because I love the bunny. I love beating on the drums because operations does not stop. Operations runs 5 to 7 days a week. There's a new problem every day. And so again, I think of that bunny beating on the drum, continuing to move, or even if it has lithium batteries and it's supercharged. You have to be when you're thinking about dealing with execution and operations on a daily basis. Just keep going, going and going. The second one that really comes to mind, it's a little bit more of an outdated reference, but in my childhood, there was a great Timex commercial. And the whole thrust of the commercial was about the watch. It takes a licking and keeps on ticking. And with operations, there are going to be down days, there are going to be up days, and you just have to, again, you have to go into it, look at what that problem or look at what that challenge presents you on that day, and think about that Timex watch, and it's right there with you, and you keep on ticking along and solving whatever that issue, challenge, or again, creating praise for something that's happened.
I was not expecting either of those, and they're both great. Like I'm visualizing the bunny going with the clock ticking in the background, and I see a great ad for Hayes Green, the operator.
Right, and the bunny's wearing a
Right.
watch too. Don't ever forget about that. Again as you think about that, one of the riffs, I don't know, I can't remember if it's a
Yeah,
right
the
or the
bunny
left
has to beat
wrist.
to a metronome, so a clock.
Exactly, right. So the bunny has a Timex there too.
Exactly. What's the most unglamorous part of your job that you love?
So this one, and I thought about it before, and I'm happy you asked me. Performance reviews. I think people absolutely, particularly when you think about operations and all the people on your teams, they don't look forward to annual performance reviews, and I do. It really goes back to what I mentioned to you before about developing next level leaders and really thinking about really investing in people. And so when I do a performance review, I use that STAR methodology, situation, task, action, and reaction, and try to give people who report to me, particularly my directs, give them situations throughout the year where I saw that there was opportunity for improvement or something that they did really, really well in their leadership style. And so giving them that granularity and performance reviews is, again, it's my gift to them. And it's what I want to, because I want them to stay with the company. I want to keep all that knowledge and I want them to grow on their professional journey. And again, it's something I can give to them that ultimately is a productivity force multiplier for the company because we don't have to go to the marketplace and go hire a new position that then has to be taught. But I do like performance reviews.
I agree with that. I love that you referred to it as a gift. I think critiques in general are a gift to just kind of grow.
Exactly, and particularly if people are open to them and trying to make them again comfortable and let's sit down and talk about this. And that's why those star examples are so important because it gives them something tangible. You're not just talking about nebulous, well, this time and this. It's again, the more granular and specific they can be grounded in it and relate to it.
Yeah, I grew up dancing, and my dance teacher would always say to me, like, if I'm not giving you a critique, it means I don't care.
That's right.
So,
That's right.
all right, last but not least,
Oh,
what's a hobby or interest you've carried with you over the years, and how has it influenced how you lead?
hobby, interest. I'll look at my love and my passion for the sport of archery with the bow and arrow, something that's been around. But I started doing this at a very young age, and so what I like about it and how it relates to how I lead in operations is archery takes a lot of practice. It takes a lot of patience. It takes a lot of perseverance coupled with an open mind, because not each shot that you take at a target is going to go right where you want it to. Again, things can happen. You can make a sudden muscle twitch and something happens. And so not every shot's going to be perfect, but ultimately you develop a rhythm and you develop a pattern to coming up with that consistent shot and being able to deliver consistently for an outcome, again, where you on target, et cetera. And so I take those traits from patience and practice and perseverance and really deploy them in my leadership style and make it part of operations for me. And it really, in fact, leads to very good execution.
What a great analogy, and also unique. I don't know a ton of people who do archery, so that's awesome. And such a great visual for hitting a target and, being that kind
Right.
of
Multiple metaphors there layered in for folks. So,
exactly. Well, thank you so much for taking the time. It was so great to talk to you today and hear more about your journey in fractional leadership and the Energizer Bunny and all things.
and the Timex watch. Don't forget about the
Exactly.
watch. Right, too. So, well, thank you so much, Caroline. Have a wonderful weekend.
You too.
Thank you. Bye bye.